Hello and welcome to a cover story conversation with Rasheed Kidwai. He's the author of 24 Akbar Road and also Sonia Gandhi's biographer. Today, actually, we're going to be focusing on the Congress party in general and the state of the opposition. But specifically, Rashid, let's talk about the Congress because, so much has happened and there is so much charcha about the Congress, for two reasons. One, of course, as the largest opposition pan-national party, there is concern because the only way there can be an effective opposition against the BJP is if the Congress gets its act together, which is why even a Mamta Banerjee, Akhilesh Yadav, everybody is concerned about what is happening within the Congress. And second, also because there is the more things change, the more things remain the same. Really, what are you getting a feeling or what's happening in the Congress after the assembly results?
Thank you, Priya. And I think it's a very fascinating period. Somebody may look at it that Congress is, as a sinking ship or something like that, but it's showing a lot of life. You look at that, what I saw today in Parliament, in Lok Sabha, Sonia Gandhi leading from the front. Sonia Gandhi Dobara. I mean, if I were to give a kind of a televised headline, that's what,
Done with a catchy headline.
she's doing. Vintage Sonia Gandhi leading from the front, doing everything. You look at her again, the 24 hours have become as busy as they were during the UPA years, which were, one can dub it as a golden period of her life. So Sonia Gandhi is doing, but can she deliver? Can she do? I mean, she's talking to Manish Tiwari and Vivek Tanka and Ghulam Nabi Azad and all sorts of people who we have bracketed as G23, a group of dissenters, and she's doing her, parliament performance. So there is a kind of thing that a subtle message is going to the cadre, to the dissenters, to everyone that, main hu na kind of moment. She's there, she's leading the front, everything's going to be fine. But the question that I want to ask you, Priya, and I'm very curious because I mean you follow Congress party very not only carefully but in a very dispassionate sense. So, what do you think? Do you think that Sonia Gandhi has got that kind of energy and zeal to be what I say Sonia Gandhi Dobara, Sonia Gandhi of '98, Sonia Gandhi of 2004? Do you see that happening?
Well, actually, I think she's also doing it not out of choice because out of choice, Rashid, as you know, she's already said that I want to step down. She wanted it even during the UPA years to make the transition very smooth and pass the mantle on. But Rahul Gandhi, at many attempts, has balked or he's not come up to standard or he's been reluctant for whatever various excuses have been given for Rahul not to step up. This one, I think, is really now she's again come to do what she was doing in 1998, which is when she came in to save the Congress. Again, because the party was sinking, people were quitting the party, people were leaving, and that is when, because her initial reaction was, no, I don't want to do politics after Rajiv's death. And she more or less stayed out, except for being, it's a word I've heard you use, and I've used it often, and a lot of people seem to agree with it, a trustee of the Congress. That's really how she sees herself, as a trustee of the Congress lineage. As in fact, she told Veer Sangvi also. I remember in one of the first interviews that when he asked her why did you join politics, she had said, when I walk through the room where I see the portraits of Rajiv and Indira and all, then at least I don't have to have anything to be answer to them for. At least I've done what to something to make them proud or whatever. So in that sense, I think that is the real reason why I would see her this return in that sense. But what you said, I totally agree. Sonia Gandhi, for how long? Because she cannot always be the answer, But there is such a backlash, or she's doing it to save the kids. Because if you remember what she said in the CWC, she is the one who said, let us resign, because she's the only one who has a post that is strong enough for a resignation. Rahul Gandhi has no post. Secondly, she also tried to deflect the blame for this whole Captain Amrinder and the Punjab fiasco from the kids. She said it was my decision. I am the one who delayed it. So she again stepped herself as a shield in front of Rahul Gandhi. And she's doing that now because from now to the next 3 months, anything wrong that goes now will be pinned on Sonia because she is the face. So she's also doing it as a defense mechanism. And as you said, she is the only, I mean, I feel she is the only option. But, how long can you go? And also, Rashid, I think maybe she's trying to use her goodwill with the other allies to try and rebuild the Congress currency again, political currency. I don't know.
Yeah, so yeah. So from what I gather, and I agree with you in the sense that she is putting her prestige or her kind of achievement and the kind of deal that she has with the respect. She's a matriarch of the so to say Congress Parivar in India, and she's putting herself, her personal prestige at stake to protect Rahul Gandhi. And what I find it, that's why I keep using this word fascinating, that at a time when people thought, and there's the talk of that PJ Korean formula, that let Rahul Gandhi be the leader of the Congress party in parliament, and let the organization be with someone else, perhaps a non-Gandhi. And in fact, if you recall that when Prashant Kishore was having some kind of negotiations with the Congress, serious negotiations at the level of Sonia Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi, the same thing had come up. Kishore supposedly had advised that let Rahul Gandhi be the leader in parliament so that people get it. And not, and what do we see after March 10th? We see Sonia Gandhi leading from the front. So this is something, I think it's a sign of temporary truce, because Sonia Gandhi's priority, as you quoted Veer Sangvi saying that, is to keep that Congress Parivar together. And what she did in 98, she's doing it now to to put a united front, to put a, keep a some kind of morale high. But there two, three things are there, that what happens to Rahul Gandhi? Where would he fit in? Would he be like just a member of parliament, or he would return as Congress president? And what will be the kind of functional relationship? Remember, it's very difficult. If you look around all over the world, there are many, family run political parties. Even in India, there are many political parties, and some of them are doing well. You look at KCR's Telangana Rashtriya Samiti, or Jagan Mohan's party, or DMK. But mother, son, daughter, all three on the key post, is very difficult to actually implement or get along. So therefore, I mean, I look at it again, I would lean on Prashant Kishore when he says that it is immaterial what's happening in the Congress, because ultimately what people want, or what opposition wants, or what the anti Narendra Modi or anti BJP NDA formulation wants, is Congress netting Lok Sabha seats? Are they getting more seats than 2019? So these are the questions I think Sonia Gandhi does not have, to my mind, does not have an answer.
But you talk about the PJ Korean formula. Is it very different from Prashant Kishore formula? What have you heard about Prashant Kishore's advice also to the Gandhis? I think it was somewhat similar, that he would revamp the organization and Rahul can continue to be the face, or the Lok Sabha face. Is it very similar to what PJ Korean also said?
Yes, I think these are the formulas that have a lot of merit, but it's Gandhi's call. And I think if you look at Ghulam Nabi Azad's body language, that I saw him in Jammu addressing a public rally, you see, they all are counting on Sonia Gandhi. Sonia Gandhi's wisdom, Sonia Gandhi's sort of sagacity, political acumen to find some solution. But I think the Congress should be thinking more in terms of what's going to happen in Gujarat next, what will happen in Himachal. You look at Aam Aadmi Party, they have come up with this, in 9 states, they have appointed conveners, or the kind of, like they have started a kind of campaign to expand their wings. It has Himachal, it has Kerala, it has several states, Karnataka, of course, Haryana. And the Congress is not actually paying that much of attention. We know that Rahul Gandhi met Huda, or rather Bhupender Singh Huda met Rahul Gandhi. And what happened? We don't see that happening at the ground. Haryana, who's going to lead the Congress party? So these are the questions. I think Sonia Gandhi, what she's doing is what we call it, the optics. She's trying to, keep the Congress morale high, and disappoint the Congress opponents who were thinking that going to be a divided house, going to be a split. And I think it, that within G23 also there is disquiet, because people, there are elements within G23 who are looking for some kind of solution. I mean, life outside the Congress, and suddenly they are all trapped. So, I mean, one level we can go on, giving credit to Sonia Gandhi for putting a lid and having some kind of temporary truce, some semblance of normalcy in the party. But at the same time, a lot of people may say that it's back to square one.
Also, but if it's Sonia, the square one is it's a nicer square one than the current square, I would say, because there is nostalgia for Sonia. We've also had an earlier discussion that people who are, find the kids or Rahul and Priyanka very, who haven't found a connect with them, have found a connect or had a connect with Sonia, whether it is allies, whether it is, within the Congress, the older guard. She was more gracious. She had a different way of doing things, and she kept the connect to the past. She had the old guard around her. So the Sonia Congress was actually a nostalgic and it brings a smile to your face also. So which the Rahul Congress has not yet achieved. It's Rahul Congress has put a lot of people's hackles up, while Sonia's Congress has some kind of a good recall value also. So her to be at the helm, she brings all that, the whiff of all those old days also back with her when she is the face. And interestingly, just 2 months ago in Parliament, before when UP was happening, Rahul Gandhi was leading. He's the one who made that speech on Modi. He took him on, on various issues, on UP issues. 2 weeks later, once the results have been out, it's again Sonia. She's leading in Parliament, whether on the petrol price hike, and I believe in the floor of the Lok Sabha, she was even telling, others in the opposition, from the opposition camp, that raise the issue of petrol and price hike, don't deviate from it, and people were listening to her. Hasnain Masoodi for one, he was going to speak on something else. She told him, no, speak on price hike. So that she's been raising issues on the Facebook, distorting the campaign or favoring the BJP. So things like that, which Rahul would normally do. These are his, we would see him in that role. Is now Sonia Gandhi doing it. So it's a interesting, return to normal, or what return to the Congress. But as you said, and I'm wondering, Rashid, you think Ghulam Nabi Azad might have suggested this because he's the one who met her. He's also linked with the old guard and the Sonia Congress. Is it something that Azad would do? Somebody's advised her. Obviously, this is something that they've worked out.
Yes, I think all these things that you're talking about in a very clinical manner, they all have sort of element of tactics in it. Remember Sonia Gandhi from 2011-12 onwards started going backstage because she wanted to promote Rahul Gandhi in a big way. And of course, in 2014, the way Narendra Modi came, so Rahul Gandhi became a very big, loser, and Congress people were really disappointed. Again, from 2017, when Rahul Gandhi was appointed Congress president, he did try very hard in Gujarat. There was a credible kind of fight. Then in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, there was success. Suddenly, it looked as if Rahul Gandhi would click. All that period, you noticed that Sonia Gandhi would not even meet. I remember, some of our friends, common friends, when they kind of sought meeting with Sonia Gandhi, she would always tell them, Rahul se mil lijiye, meet Rahul Gandhi. So she would be doing that. But suddenly this thing has changed. And now, as you're saying, that somebody like Ghulam Nabi Azad, who's also, remember, he's a very, he's a big organizational man. There's not a day that, Azad has been out of Congress. There's not a room at 24 Akbar Road which has not been occupied by Ghulam Nabi Azad.
That's
So
interesting.
he's a very, just say like somebody in Congress, Uttar Pradesh Congress was telling you, oh, system ke aadmi hai. So, there's not a town where Azad would not have 10, 20 people to, he can call them up and get connected. So I think Azad was, perhaps when this G23 started, he wanted to get even with Ahmed Patel. And after Ahmed Patel's death in, kind of COVID-related, uh, complications, it's a new situation. So Azad would want to become a, Ahmed Patel. Mind you, their kind of rivalry or this dates back to 3 decades or so, or 4 decades, the time of Sanjay Gandhi era. And earlier Azad had upper hand, and from 98 onwards, I would say Ahmed Bhai had a kind of upper hand or a bigger say in that. So now it's, and every lot of people have comfortable with Azad. So I think a lot of it is happening. And one more thing, Priya, I want to highlight this thing that, see, there are a lot of people like Sharad Pawar, like KCR. They are very unhappy, or Mamata Banerjee, unhappy with AAP or rise of Aam Aadmi Party. They are also feeling threatened. So it's a common bond, which is coming in place. That so there is going to be anti-BJP front, and there is going to be marginalization of Aam Aadmi Party by the non-NDA political parties.
Very interesting thought. Let's leave it there and come back after a quick break. I'm going to continue with this conversation. And also, Rashid's written the other book, 24 Akbar Road. So, a little bit about party headquarter politics. He talked about advisors. The role of advisors is something I want to talk to him about, especially since currently Rahul's advisors are under fire. So, stay with us. Hello and welcome back to a cover story conversation with Rasheed Kidwai, the Congress historian, senior journalist, and political columnist. Rasheed, we were talking, one, of course, the point you made before the break, I think we must repeat it, is the fact that with the rise of Aam Aadmi Party, there is a lot of, within the opposition also, there's a lot of positioning, and Mamta Banerjee, KCR, etc., would prefer Congress rather than an Aam Aadmi Party to rise. I think even Pawar would be more comfortable with that. So there are a lot of vested interest in making sure that the Congress gets its act together. But also the role of advisors, I'm quite interested in that because you mentioned the turf war between Azad and Ahmed Patel in the section before the break. But earlier on, the advisors were, I think Sonia Gandhi, especially Indira Gandhi, had advisors from within the Congress fold. Rajiv Gandhi's advisors were from the outside, and his son, I think, seems to have adopted that also. And that has led to a lot of resentment. I don't know whether you saw a couple of social media posts, they've targeted Harish Chaudhary for ticket distribution. Ajay Magan has been targeted. Surjewala has been targeted for communication by Prashant Kishore, in fact. And recently, Sandeep Singh, the JNU, who's Priyanka Gandhi's advisor, took to Twitter. Very interestingly, and he wrote कि अगर संघर्ष करना is a crime, we are being criticized by armchair people. अगर हाथरस जाना is a crime, या उन्नाव आगरा जाना is a crime, we've been hauled up for that. So they are also now feeling defensive. Does Rahul need to change his advisors? Part of the formula by G23, I think, is this, that suggestions are you need to change your team of advisors.
Yes, so Priya, internally in Congress there are two type of advisors. I mean, they would call it that दूध वाले एडवाइजर और खून वाले एडवाइजर. तो उसका एक कहानी किस्सा है. कहते हैं कि जब वो लैला मजनू का दौर था तो लैला जो थी वो एक बड़े राजा की बेटी थी. तो उसने जो था मजनू को बिल्कुल किनारे हो गए थे. तो मजनू जो थे वो बाजार में बिल्कुल बुरे हाल में, खाते पीते नहीं थे, बेहोश हो जाते थे, बहुत दुबले हो गए थे. तो लैला ने अपनी एक वो जो चैम्बर मेड के जरिए उनको एक दूध का प्याला भिजवाया कि दूध पी के थोड़ा सा उनमें ताकत आए, स्टेमिना आए. तो वहां के ऊपर जैसी रॉयल चैम्बर मेड गई, वो कई वहां जो फकीर भिखारी किस्म के थे वो चिल्लाने लगे हाय लैला हाय लैला, और उसमें से एक ने वो दूध पी लिया. इसी तरीके से वो हफ्ते भर सिलसिला चलता रहा. फिर लैला को खबर मिली कि मजनू तो और दुबला हो गया. तो एक दिन उसने अपनी चैम्बरमेट से बोला कि आज जब तुम जाओगी तो ये दूध के प्याले के बदले उससे कहना कि तो खून चाहिए. तो जैसे ही उसकी चैम्बरमेट ने खून मांगा तो सब वो जितने भी वो फकीर वो अलग हो गए और उन्होंने कहा, असली मजनू की तरफ इशारा किया, कहा कि हम तो दूध वाले मजनू है, खून वाला मजनू वो रहा. तो कांग्रेस में जो लोग सत्ता से बाहर रहते हैं वो बेचारे मतलब खून वाले मजनू कहते हैं हम तो देखिए वफादार है, बट nobody listens to us. And this is on a more serious note, this has been actually a very serious problem. Look at the kind of Indira Gandhi chose those people like Jafar Sharif, like M.L. Futtedar, like R.K. Dhawan. Winston George, of course, had was in Rajiv Gandhi's time and Sonia Gandhi's time. Their loyalty to the Gandhis were absolute. And what happened to the two Aruns, Arun Nehru and Arun Singh? You see, Amitabh Bachchan, they was all white-collar people who were very image-conscious. People had a social standing. So when the going got difficult, they just left and dumped Rajiv Gandhi. Similarly, we saw in case of, I don't want to take names because they all are your friends. You have mentioned them in the book, the contenders. So the contenders, many of them, say one of them, you see, all have left Rahul Gandhi.
Contenders have become pretenders.
That's, I think I'll leave it to your choice. So this is a problem because these people who are kind of who have come from a good social background and who have done something or who are achievers or capable of achieving, their way of loyalty is very conditional and it's very narrow. So I think this is something Rahul Gandhi is learning the hard way.
I agree with you. But I have, in defense of the contenders, there were a lot of them, I think, had joined that band of Rahul. They were known as the Camelot. They had all joined together, and they were the Cub class of 2004. We used to call them the Cub class. And they all were, they'd signed up for this whole thing of being part of this team Rahul, that whole aura that Rahul will take in, and he will also be a minister, and they will get that training under Manmohan Singh's cabinet. And by UPA too, maybe Rahul will take charge with all of them. That did not happen because Rahul did not step up, and because he did not step up, they were not allowed to go cross a certain Lakshman Rekha, so to speak. So in that sense, that they, because everybody is in politics for, it's not an NGO. Only Rahul Gandhi talks like he's working for an NGO. Everybody else is clear, they want position, they want power, and they went to the greener pastures where they saw power and position. That's the
Yes,
way
I
I
think
see.
there also, Priya, there is a very interesting commentary which has not been, so to say, seen light of the day. Because Rahul Gandhi somewhere thinks that, from the life of his father that he had seen, his father was a very successful a commercial pilot, and circumstances forced him to come in politics. And he tried, brought a lot of modernity and a lot of reforms, a lot of good things. But a kind of IPKF misadventure took place, both wars happened, a lot of things happened. And I would say, I mean, a very noble soul, a good man, he lost his life also in a kind of terror attack. So Rahul has a very simple thing that first deserve, then desire. Now, this is a very lofty ideal. I mean, most the second generation dynast or so, they came in politics thinking that they deserve it. So they were not as patient as Rahul Gandhi was, because Rahul Gandhi is, Indira Gandhi's grandson, he is Jawaharlal Nehru's great grandson, he is, Rajiv Gandhi's son, Sonia Gandhi's son. So he had a sense of, or still has, sense of detachment towards trappings of power. And whereas these people, मतलब, I had asked somebody, I asked him in Hindi, so I said कि आपकी अंतरात्मा की आवाज क्या कह रही है? तो अंतरात्मा की आवाज कह रही है कि मंत्री बने. हाँ, ये जो लुटियंस दिल्ली में मतलब बंगलो हो, सरकारी गाड़ी हो. So these are very normal, I mean, I would say political reaction. But Rahul has, advisors, I don't want to name them, कि उनकी 2.5 लाख रुपए की वो साइकिल चलाते हैं. So Rahul thinks that this is the way out, like the Channi description, that he's a poor, गरीब आदमी है. So nobody in Punjab would believe Channi is a poor man, because the kind of, that family wealth that, he had or he acquired or whatever. So these are the basic things that Rahul Gandhi, is not understanding. Perhaps, Sonia Gandhi is a better student in the University of Life.
Perhaps so, because Sonia Gandhi, I think, maybe she saw it because with her stint, she was there when Indira Gandhi was there, and closely saw what had happened even with Rajiv Gandhi, how friends from the outside ditched him. So perhaps she realized that she has to rely more on the system, because that will stand by you, because they're all stakeholders in the Congress story, which Arun Nehru, Arun Singh, and Amitabh Bachchan were not. And Ahmed Patel is definitely more of a stakeholder. But Rashid, something more, you and I both covered Congress. So people, we are also talking to a generation that's born after Babri Masjid demolition, that hasn't seen the old Congress the way it was. Remember the 24 Akbar Road, your book named after it? Party headquarters had a certain feel to it. I mean, we used to go, if you can, I remember we used to, after the briefing, and briefing was done by stalwarts, Gadge, Jogi, the people who had perspective, who were part of the Congress. Today, there are a lot of kids who are coming in whom you and I know more than these kids know when they're coming and doing the briefing.
And Priya, some of them are very sort of, I would say, intolerant also, insular. If you criticize the Congress, they think that, you are a part of that Bhakt Mandli or that Godi media, all kind of labeling is done, and they are very good at labeling fast. So they lack that, patience. People don't realize that, see the BJP, RSS, you look at the, BJP's earlier avatars like Jansang, Hindu Mahasabha, all the Ram Rajya Parishad, they took a lot of time. Very few people understand that from 1951 onwards, when the first elections took place, till 1969, there was no LOP in country, leader of opposition. Abhi bhi nahi hai, but the combined opposition lived with it. So the BJP, RSS, or whatever their organization, they have 137 organizations which are working in society at various level. I don't want to, name all of them, but so they have found some roots in society. The Congress does not have institutions. There is no, I mean, and jokingly, I mean, this, somebody may form it little defamatory. They call it, Sevadal, they call it Mevadal. So the many people in Rahul Gandhi would not know.
He's on a
They had a
roll
very
today.
fancy car, and they would get out of that car and come there and put on that, that Gandhi cap and, stand at the gate of, I mean, inside 24 Akbar Road just to see, like have a kind of eye contact with Rahul Gandhi, Sonia Gandhi, Priyanka Gandhi. This kind of culture is there. So the kind of hard work that the BJP has been able to do, you look at this Labharti thing. See, the fact of the matter is elected representatives have been made accountable that if in a constituency there are 10,000 Labhartis, then the BJP leadership ensured that elected representative is in touch with all of them. They have some kind of call center where people are personally contacted and checked whether they are getting this free ration or not. So Congress does not have that mechanism. The Congress folklore continues to be that that Sitaram Kesri era, that if you were given a bundle of notes, some notes will be missing. And when Kesri was asked, he said, "Arey, wo to shagun ke liye nikal lete hain." So this shagun culture has gone too far at every layer. So the party does not have resources, party does not have sacrifice, party does not have cadre, institutions. There is, like I keep saying, you look at Karnataka where the hijab controversy is there. The Congress does not have, a stand on it. There are some people who are in favor of hijab and there are people who are anti-hijab. As much as like you see it in, if you're walking through, Janpath or Connaught Place, if you are do that, what you could do with Vox Pop, and you get that kind of response. So the Congress has become, I mean, it's not talking enough to itself to formulate its own kind of view on every issue, particularly emotive issue. And if you talk to Congress people, they have three views. So ultimately, the party is not able to say what it should be saying or what people expect from political party. So this is a thing. Actually, I mean, yeah, you have been following and very closely observing this, sort of young guards, young guns, or young leaders. But somewhere you look at the young leaders have been more, disappointing or responsible for failure. And I'm not just putting Rahul Gandhi in that league. Then the older generation.
Which is why I think when the old generation is dismissed as old guard, it's not fair, because these are the guys who were there. They help you lay the pipes and the plumbing. They were there. In the whole party was not just started by one set of people. It was started by the entire Congress. There are a whole lot of stakeholders. So you can't just dismiss them as, chalo, now they're only auditioning for Rajya Sabha berths. At least listen to what they are saying. I think at the end of the day.
And can I ask you one more question? And what do you think of this kind of culture which we hear from, secondary sources and reliable sources? Then Rahul and Priyanka, both of them are very indifferent towards those who are quitting the party. मतलब जिसको जाना है जाए.
So publicly कह दिया था. So I guess.
So you're much better informed than me. Can you tell us?
So quickly for you wrap up. No, I think I totally agree in that sense. That I think they're taking it too personally. Politics is not personal. They're leaving the party. They're not leaving. Yes, Rahul can take the leaving of a Scindia or a Jitin or RPN personally, because those are also part of his inner friends, inner lot. But this Jisko Jana Hai Jai kind of a thing is not, I mean, I don't, this seems to be the attitude. Those they want to hold back, they held back. I mean, let's not forget Priyanka reaching out to Sachin Pilot. So that is also, they didn't say that for him. So end of the day, I think the message is they keep holding on to those they want to, I guess. But I think we're totally out of time. Rasheed, thank you so much for this conversation. I think I enjoyed this. It's a refreshing, different kind of a format. But at least we got to have a very comprehensive conversation with someone who knows the Congress party inside out. Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.